Roxo Media House.
A Signal 51 is police code for an investigation, a law enforcement proceeding that is a systemic and thorough attempt to learn the facts about a possible crime that is complex and whose facts and circumstances are generally hidden, at least initially, behind obstacles that can be coincidental and or man-made. Investigations methods are formal. I'm John Henry, a journalist. My partner is Jake White, a retired Fort Worth police sergeant. And together we examine the difficult cases of law enforcement, both in Fort Worth and around the region. This is Signal 51. The show is designed specifically for a more mature audience. Some of the content is graphic and is not intended for younger audiences. This week on the Signal 51 Chronicles, the hard card truth. The late 1980s and early 1990s was a heyday for collectors. We're not talking Beanie Babies, Cabbage Patch dolls. Did you have any Cabbage Patch dolls?
No, I did not.
Cabbage Patch dolls, OJ stuff at a hotel in Las Vegas. If it does not fit, you must acquit, which is what that jury wanted to do anyway. Or some other fad collectible. No, we were talking sports cards. Who among us didn't trade sports cars growing up? So how exactly does a true crime podcast and a hobby of collecting cross paths? It's a good question. For this answer, we turn to one source, Barnaby's.com. The notable Barnaby's.com.
Very notable for appraising stuff,
yeah.
I think.
On August 28th, 2022, a Mickey Mantle Topps rookie card from the year 1952 sold for a shocking $12.6 million at Heritage Auctions, nearly doubling the former record price of $6.9 million for a Honus Wagner rookie card, right? Yeah, rookie card.
The T206 then.
The T206.
And becoming the most expensive trading card in history, that Mantle card did, the sports trading card industry experienced a resurgence during the pandemic. That damn pandemic. When nostalgic pursuits were revisited. A lot of things were revisited. According to that TX whiskey, too. Got a lot of revisits on that sitting on. The sports trading industry is estimated today to be worth more than $13 billion. So that's how crime and sports collectibles merge.
Always comes back to the money.
Green dough. Now, of course, this $13 billion figure today was not always this way. If you remember in the 80s and 90s, we all turned to a more rudimentary source of valuation. We turned the pages of Beckett magazines. Scrolling through the long list of cards and their correlating values, we would find the arrow pointing up on a near mint. Kevin Moss's, Greg Jeffries, or the likes of Mike Greenwell.
Remember those guys?
I wasn't born yet. Yes, I remember him. I certainly do remember him. Kevin Moss was like the hottest thing. That Kevin Moss card was off the charts early on. I remember that.
They had high hopes for him.
I know it.
Kind of sizzled out.
I call it Yankee prejudice.
No.
Perhaps it's that.
As the years went on, the arrow went from up to down, Kevin Moss. And then the names disappeared as their careers failed. So once where kids looked at these cards as investments, the manufacturers began to produce them in mass quantities, watering down their value. Ultimately, the scarcity was no more, so like any other supply and demand component, the value declined. It was not until around 2020 and that pandemic did things start to turn around. Remember those staggering figures. According to Invaluable.com, quote, today it's the physical baseball cards that are still highly prized among collectors in an industry that shows no signs of slowing down. In fact, the trading card market grew by 142% in 2020, according to eBay. And the record-breaking sale of Our boy Mickey Mantle's 1952 Topps card reflects the growing value of the global sports cards market, which is expected to increase to an eye-popping $98 billion in 2022.
That is a huge increase.
From around $13 billion today
Yeah.
to $98 billion in 2024.
I guess we'll see. So,
Yeah, tell us about your card collecting
like
career.
so many
Jake.
others,
I had a few.
sports cards consumed any and all free time that I had, which back then in the late 80s, early 90s was a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean,
School was never top of the list for me.
grab ass was, however, a lot of
A lot of grab-assery.
grab assery.
Lots of that. But yeah, so like so many other kids, like I said, it consumed my time.
Mm-hmm.
It did become my form of currency. I did everything I could to keep them in good shape because the condition of them was paramount,
Of course.
especially when it came to selling them or using them as the kid currency. And selling them, I did. Anytime I needed money, I always had the go-to.
I just signed George Brett card that I had to ditch, pay for a phone bill in
I got
college.
this is a quick 20-second timeout.
Yeah.
This is a true story.
Mm-hmm.
This is circa 1986 in the town of St. Joseph, Missouri,
Yeah,
the birthplace of this guy.
yeah.
I went to what I think, if I recall correctly, was a Lions Club event with my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason this was significant was twofold. One, I got out of school. And two, George Brett was going to be there speaking. And I knew that I was going to get a George Brett autograph. So
Yeah.
he sits on this stage.
And George Brett is like your George Washington.
Yeah. Yeah, for a simpleton such as me, yes. So,
You're Moses.
well, listen, I don't want to go that far. I don't want to correlate him to a biblical figure. So there's George Brett in this Ramada Inn
The
ballroom.
Ramada Inn. Do those still exist?
I don't know. Do they?
I don't know. Anyway, go on.
He's sitting on this stage. The audience of about, I don't know, 150 people. You're eating the stereotypical food, you know, the
lousy banquet food.
lousy banquet, grilled chicken breast, salad, whatever,
Like
right?
Luby's is Riata compared to what you get
Ex-
at these things.
Exactly. So George Brett gets up, and I don't even remember what he says. I mean, it was, yeah, I have no clue, no recollection of the conversation, and it is because
Oh.
in the midst of
I
the George
remember
Brett
something about
speech, a man had a heart attack.
Uh-huh.
And a lady jumps up and screams something to the effect of, "Is there a doctor in the house?" My eyes are glued on George Brett because I think, hey, this dude hit 390 before.
Surely he can save this guy's life.
I'm sure he knows how to save this guy. So I'm like, what's George Brett going to do?
Yeah.
That's my 9 or 10-year-old innocence.
And he hopped right up. He hopped right into action.
Opposite, dude. Total opposite. That dude just plowed into that chicken
He
breast.
kept eating.
Oh. Didn't skip a beat.
He's got to be out of there in an hour.
What happened to the guy?
He
I
had
don't
a date.
know. He's got some legendary stories. I got the card signed, and I digress.
Oh, you actually did get it signed.
Oh, yeah, of course. I had it for years, and then I don't know. I may still have it. I'd have to look.
Yeah, I had to sell mine.
With but me, like so many other kids, so by the time I hit 21 or so, my once I thought impressive collection had dwindled to just a few keepsakes that I still have today. So I've always kept my eye on it because it was a big part of my childhood. But the collecting thing now it seems to be so convoluted I can't keep track. Right?
It's like Bitcoin.
It's like Bitcoin. I mean, because back in our day, we had a few brands, 3-4 brands, right? You just had numbered cards.
Yeah.
There were no
Limited options.
Yeah, limited options. There were no crazy inserts. There were no autograph cards as a whole that you would pull from these packs. It was very, very easy to keep track. I mean, a 10-year-old could do it.
Now, 10-year-olds, flying drones and, I don't know, playing video games and whatever.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know. I mean, I think some kids still do, nowhere at the level that it was.
All right. Well.
But so
Sorry to
as
be
I got
them.
older, I mean, like I said, this was a huge part of my life. But there was the proverbial kick to the sack as I grew older. I realized that all of those cards that I thought I could have retired on are now worthless.
That was kick to the sack actually in Proverbs, in the Old Testament?
You told me it was.
Oh, well, then it must have been.
You typed this. So my interest in it waned, right, to, nothing. And then over the last couple years, I've started to become interested in it, to the point I have now found myself watching the TikTok video or whatever reels. I don't know the social media stuff enough to know of grown men opening baseball cards. I have consumed time in my day of watching grown men open baseball cards.
That's what we've come to.
Yeah. Now, with that, though, that is what brings us here today. The idea of, does the sports card collecting intersect with our True Crime podcast? And sure enough, it does.
Sure looks like it. Because on February 8th, a year ago, 2022, at 3:41 a.m., two men smashed through the front doors of the American Dream Sports Card Store in Haltom City, Grand Haltom City, our little suburb and one-time rival of Fort Worth for the county seat of Tarrant County.
Can you imagine if Haltom City was the county seat of Tarrant?
How different would that world be?
Man, this would be one
bunch of old broken down neons and stuff on Belknap or wherever else. Used car lots everywhere.
Oh man!
All right, stop it. Oh, Haltom City. Fine jewelry though, Haltom's. So anyway, but once in, these guys, they eyed the prize, or so they thought. They quickly went to work and smashed out the glass on the display cases, and within seconds, they took over $9,000 worth of sports trading cards.
And not a whole bunch of them.
I've got the list here. You want me to read it?
Yeah, let's do it.
One was Jason Tatum's. The Boston Celtics, I believe, still plays for them. Boston Celtics star. And that card was valued at $24.95. That was a 2018-19 Panini Prism. And I don't know what Prism means, but...
It's PSA graded at an 8.
PSA graded an 8. Kristaps Porzingis. I don't know who would want that card. The old Dallas Mavericks, now a member of, I believe, the Knicks.
Washington Wizards.
Oh, he's with the Wizards now. All right.
When did they change from the Bullets?
Oh, you're going to get canceled for that.
It's been about 12 years.
Oh, at least. Yeah, maybe 20.
That's what they used to be called.
Yeah, Baltimore Bullets, and they had to change it because it was politically incorrect.
Oh. I'm just kidding. I knew they.
So his 2018-19 Panini was valued at $39.95. Jason Tatum appears again. The same card valued at a PSA 9. Jake's going to have to explain that later.
We have a guest that might be able to explain that.
Yes, we do have a guest. Same value, $24.95 is his other one. Great name here. Fred Van Vliet. Another 2018-19 Panini, $29.95.
Hold on, who's Fred Van Vliet?
He's a basketball player for...
point guard, Toronto Raptors.
There you go. Two Fred Van Vliets were taken as these guys absconded from the scene. Trey Young. We all know Trey Young, superstar from Oklahoma. His father was Rayford Young, fantastic point guard at the University in the South Plains, Texas Tech. 99.95 for that 19 and 20. Eric Pascal, 39.95. And then here comes Big Money Grip. Trevor Lawrence, 2021 so-called certified freshman fabric, RPA 149. It's all Greek to me. $1,000. And then another connection to Texas Tech, Patrick Mahomes, quarterback extraordinaire, Kansas City Chiefs, Jake's favorite quarterback of all time. I don't know how, actually he's not. I don't understand how anybody can dog cuss Patrick Mahomes, especially when he's your team. I've never understood that.
I don't dog cuss him.
Oh, it's Andy Reid you dog cuss.
I don't dog cuss him.
I tell you, when I got some text messages that night of that AFC Championship game, it looked like they were going to lose, and Andy Reid was a bum. He's only been to the AFC Championship game 5 straight years.
You know who's taking his spot?
And now they've won it 2 of the last 4 years.
You know who's taking his spot here in a few years.
Jake White is an extremely high-maintenance sports fan. I'll just tell you that right now. Well, anyway, that Patrick Mahomes card went for $590 or was valued at $599 for the grand total of $9,391 that they got ripped off.
Yeah, there was a whole
Awesome
slew
City.
of other things that were taken. This was just one of the lists that we were able to get. So with this list, though, this is what I'm talking about. Prism, Mosaic, certified fabric.
Yeah. Sounds like marketing mumbo jumbo to me.
I didn't even know what all that means.
Yeah.
I'm just familiar with card numbers. You know, like the number 1, 1989, Upper Deck, Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah. So that was the first one they printed, huh?
Iconic.
Classic.
Yeah. I think I've got that one.
Well, yeah, you may.
I think I did.
We're going to have to get that thing graded. You amongst 48,000 other people who have.
Exactly. I might be able to buy you a couple of drinks for it.
We got my other favorite card of all time. The 1990 score. Card number 697.
Bo Jackson.
The old Bo. The one where he's wearing the football pads with the baseball bat.
You were still are very much a Bo Jackson
huge
homer.
Oh, huge.
And kid played Kansas City Royals, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I got to see him play when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, it was phenomenal. That's what I'm used to. Simple. Card 1, card 697. The list you read, I'm confused. I mean, I really am. So we're going back to the American Dreams sports card burglary.
You met this guy who owns.
I talked to him. I did. So, fortunately, the owner, a guy named Scott Mann, he was a super nice guy. There was a break in the case. Less than 24 hours, according to news reports, after the burglary, another card shop owner in Bedford called Bedford police and said there was a female inside of his store and she was trying to sell some of the loot. Quickly, officers from the Bedford Police Department, another fine suburb of Fort Worth,
HEB.
HEB, they arrived. The female was taken into custody.
All right. So before we carry on, cops on this type of thing in Haltom City. Not a bustling city like a metropolis like Fort Worth or Dallas or Arlington. There's a burglary at this card shop. They send detectives in, right? Is that what happens? Cops arrive there and they send detectives in, and how? No, there are no detectives.
No detectives are coming.
Okay.
Most likely.
Okay.
It's going to be do this from the cop perspective.
I mean, $9,000.
It's a lot of money. I agree. But we're going to get into why this may not have been solved.
So, some 2 hours to our south, The now closed Apollo Sports Card and Collectibles said on Facebook, quote, "Our shop, Apollo Sports and Collectibles, located in Cove Terrace Shopping Center, was broken into this morning, November 11th of 2022 at 2:43 a.m. The 4 people were in and out very quickly and stole a great amount of product from us. I've attached surveillance videos, so please, if you recognize anyone or have any information, please call the upstanding, I added upstanding, Copperas Cove Police Department and reference our store name. Please like and share this post."
Same day as the Copperas Cove. Just a little to the south in a town known as Austin. The Lucky Sevens Cards and Collectibles, located at 13945 North Highway 183, fell victim. Same MO, smashed the glass on the front door, went inside, broke the cases. This time, they ran off with close to $50,000 worth of merchandise.
Look out.
Also in this case, I was able to speak to the owner of Lucky Sevens.
Hope the insurance premiums were all paid.
Exactly. So to this day, he's uncertain if the assailants have ever been caught. But I did learn, like we did in our research, this was kind of a problem. Not Lucky Sevens. This is a problem, or was a bigger problem, perhaps still is, in the industry as a whole.
Forget banks. Let's get sports cards.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, there's so many of these stories. But in this case, the Lucky Sevens case, the assailants came in. They appeared to target football and basketball-related products. The majority of what they took were unopened packs of cards. And because of this, Lucky Sevens and other card stores have had to install roll-down doors to prevent these smash-and-grab type burglaries.
It's like the corner drugstore guarding against all the meth heads, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
With those bars on it.
But they're selling baseball cards, football cards, basketball cards.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, around the same time, this is from a mysanantonio.com news report.
I believe that's the San Antonio Express News.
You would know. After only being open for 2 months, a Northwest Side card and collectible shop in San Antonio has experienced a devastating loss after about $25,000 worth of high-end sports memorabilia was stolen from the shop on April 23rd, same year. Victor Nava, the owner of Boomtown Sports Cards and Collectibles, told My SA the robbery set his store back to square one, adding they've been trying to get their feet on the ground since opening its location on Bandera and Prue roads. Nava said it's devastating the amount of product that was taken from here. It's pretty shocking. Nava found out about the crime after receiving a notification on his phone of how someone shattered his glass window with a brick at around 2:50 a.m. His mom, who also lived just a short distance from the shop, was sent an alert. When San Antonio police arrived, they believed the suspect stole the items within 30 seconds to a minute. In and out, quick. As of Wednesday, April 27th of 2022, police had no leads, no arrest. The store started offering some rewards. Still no luck. This didn't set back the owner of that store too much. He was able to get his feet back on the ground and get open quickly as possible. But I want to go back to the American Dream sports card store in Haltom City. So I did, like I mentioned earlier, I spoke to the owner, Scott Mann. And I wondered how, this is where I started getting confused with this stuff.
Now they're no longer in Haltom City, right?
No, we're gonna tell you their new location here coming up. So I got confused. I began to grow confused of how would a card store in another city know that Mann's cards were the same, one and the same. Again, my frame of reference is very elementary, right?
You're talking about like a serial number. How would somebody know?
Yeah,
that's a card.
Yeah,
that was stolen in Haltom City, and they might try to.
Would have had no idea. So this sports card industry, it's a small community, right? They're everything like with everyone else. They're heavily involved in social media and things like that, and they got the word out. So the employee at the other card store used to work for Scott at American Dreams.
The one in Bedford.
The one in Bedford.
Mm-hmm.
So the cards that were taken, the ones that you rattled off, they're unique cards. So when the female suspect entered the Bedford store called Collectible Investments, the employee quickly identified 7 or 8 of the cards she was trying to sell and recognized those as ones that were taken in the burglary at American Dreams when it was in Haltom City. So the employee, he stalled. You know, who knows what his tactic was. Hey, let me run to the back. Let me do this, whatever. And he calls Bedford police. Bedford police get there. When they show up, there's a getaway car in the parking lot. It was like a tan Ford of sorts, a sedan. That car burns off, takes off pretty quickly, gets away. Bedford
leaves the
scene. Not police at that point probably don't know that it's involved. Plus, they really don't know what the crime is. You know, sometimes these kind of calls could be a little. You got to get there and figure it out before you know what you got. Before you quote unquote start jacking everyone up. So they go inside and
jacking everyone up.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, blast from the past. That is.
Could be jacking with too, but whatever. Go ahead.
So the police go in there, they detain the female, they get enough to arrest her for what, who knows. And we're going to get to that too. They confiscate the cards, which presumably still sit in a dusty old police property room in the city of Bedford, probably taped up in a box with some cops' initials and badge numbers and a report number and things like that.
Better not have written on them.
No, I don't think they did. They're probably still sitting in this box.
Gotcha.
So a month after this burglary, man starts getting these phone calls, and it's a female. She won't identify herself. Won't say who she is other than she works for the Panini sports card manufacturer, which is local. I don't know exactly where. It's somewhere in our
it's in Grand Prairie.
Grand Prairie.
In our vast metropolitan area. So she provides some names of possible suspects to man. Man passes this information along to the Haltom City Police Department. He learned that one of them may be an ex-con.
Imagine that.
But the case went nowhere. Nothing happened.
And this is over a year. No, it's 23.
No, this was in 22.
This was in 22.
So this would have been around March of 22. So about a year ago today.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 months ago, or 6 months after the burglary of American Dreams, a guy comes into Man's store. Another ode to why stealing these cards probably aren't a good idea. We're going to get to that as well. But this guy comes in with a graded Joe Montana numbered to 10.
For our non-sports fans, Joe Montana was an acclaimed
Kansas City Chiefs quarterback.
4-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, never with the Kansas City Chiefs.
But
he won with the 4. He did play for the Chiefs, but
right before retirement.
Right before I know he never won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs.
Yeah, okay. I thought I just tripped you up on some sports.
But he
trivia.
did indeed play for the Chiefs.
No, he did. I agree.
For maybe 1 or 2 years.
Tail end of his career.
Yeah.
That's where quarterbacks go to die.
He was. Wait a minute, that can't possibly be true. We got a star there right now. But anyway, he played. Yeah, he had a couple of good games, maybe a good year with Kansas City. But I digress.
Well, so this Joe Montana card,
Mm-hmm.
number 210, meaning there's only 10 of these in existence.
Wow.
So Scott knew the one that he had. And what do you know?
It's the same one.
It's the same one taken in the burglary. A clue, some may say. Well, Scott confronts this guy.
I really want this story to end with Joe Montana solving the crime. But anyway, go ahead.
It may. He confronts this sports card selling.
In the movie, that's the way it'll be.
In the movie, that's how it'll be. But this sports card selling hopeful tells man, hey, I just bought this from a dude at a Quick Trip gas station. No, I don't want to ruffle your feathers with a Quick Trip gas station.
I'm a Quick Trip guy.
I believed you called it a fine cuisine or something of the sorts just this past weekend. You took your...
It is at 2:30 in the morning.
With a guy from North Dakota.
Yeah.
That's where you take him.
Well, where else we're going to go?
Whataburger? They don't have...
We needed to be within a very short drive.
Oh, man, I don't know. Okay. You're right. I agree. So...
But this guy buys his card
at a Quick Trip gas station in the parking lot. A few others. Man knows it's his card, right? Because of the number.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so unfortunately, this lead too did not pan out. So here's the problem. We've talked about this before.
Yeah, this is where I was wondering if this was going. Go ahead.
We live in a very large metropolitan area. Some could say there might be an elevated crime rate in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Most can say the resources of the police are depleted. Morale's in the crapper.
Definitely, all that's true.
So there are these crimes like a murder, robbery, all these other heinous crimes that take priority. Now, albeit having $9,000 or $10,000 stolen from you is a hard pill to swallow, especially if you're the victim. I just don't think there's enough resources that could have addressed this.
So did man buy his card back, or what happened? Or did the cops show up and?
No. I mean,
he just said I'm not going to buy it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's one of those. How far do you want to push the issue, right? I mean, who knows what? I mean, let's face it. The guy did buy a baseball card in the parking lot of a Quick Trip gas station, or so he says. Who knows if that's true or not? So in this case and these others, there's still no closure. These three that we cited, and there are hundreds across the U.S.
Unbelievable.
It's pretty rare they get solved.
I bet.
But here's the problem. It's kind of pointless to break into these. So I dug into that. The reason why this industry has changed a lot, right? So you have these numbered cards. They're unique now. If you've got this Joe Montana 6 of 10 or whatever the card number is, that's the only Joe Montana 6 of 10 for that year, that brand. So then they take it to the next level. They have this whole grading thing now. Mm-hmm. You know, like I said, back in our day, we had Beckett, Mint, Near Mint. What was the other one? The low one? Or was there just...
No, it was Near Mint and Mint.
Yeah, Near Mint and Mint. Well, now they have this grading procedure that they send to. One of the main ones called PSA. I don't know what PSA stands for, but you mail your card off. It goes, I mean, I guess you have these baseball card gurus that just examine cards. I don't know. I think
experts in the field that are totally in tune with condition.
Totally in tune with condition.
All right.
So they assign a grade to it, a number to it, like 10 being pristine, a gem mint 10.
And you paid to do that.
Yeah, you pay to do it too. But with that, they also have the ability to catalog your card with a barcode on there. So if you break into a sports card store and you steal a Joe Montana 6 of 10 that's been PSA graded, and it's
with the barcode
with
on
the
it now.
barcode on there, and you take it to a sports card store in Houston.
This is owned by X. They can tell who owns this card. Right?
It's cataloged.
Yeah.
So there's really, at that point, because if you take it out of the case and it's no longer graded, the value takes a significant hit from what I gather. So the whole point of this is probably not the best thing to steal. But I think we need to dig a little deeper, John.
Well, to do this, we have to go back into the past. And of course, the past tells us about the present, and it gives us a glimpse of the future. So you might have noticed we have another voice with us today. He is a notorious collector out of Houston area. Pardon me, the Houston area. Some have called him the sports card gangster. Others referred to him as the sports card bully. But with us is a man others call Junk Wax Jockins. Daryl Jockins, welcome to the show, Signal 51 Chronicles.
Now, I must add, before we hear his story, some estimates had the collection of Junk Wax Jockins valued at over $100,000 in 1991.
Good lordy.
Today, though, estimates hover in the range of $800 to $1,000. The prized possession being a recently graded John Elway rookie valued at roughly $100.
How far the mighty have fallen.
Hence the term junk wax, a term that, if you remember, going back to watching these grown men open baseball cards, one of them is Junk Wax Sal. Funny guy. It captivates me. I can tell you that.
Mesmerizing.
I mean, I've watched at least 130-second videos of him opening cards and pulling out a bunch of nothing. So this junk wax term, though, just so you're clear, it's about 86 to 93 era.
It's anything with the wax in the a lot of times it was either stickers or gum, right? So you recall, very easy to open.
Yep.
You can tamper with it.
Yeah, there's wax paper, like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that were just grossly overproduced. And then also everybody, again, kind of going back to what we talked about, everybody kept such good care of them. The scarcity is no more. Everybody had a mint Ken Griffey Jr. or I don't know. What else we got?
Everybody took care of their cards. As soon as you got it, you put it in a sleeve, put it in a little top loader, and you never touch it with a human hand again.
All right, so junk wax. We need to know what the industry was like from the perspective of a kid in the late 80s and 90s. Like, what influence did it have on you growing up?
I mean, other than, you're Breaking Bad, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
The conversation,
Junk Wax,
and the, just the story alone really speaks volumes of how far this industry has gone. When Jake and I collected, I would say those were, some of the most formidable years of our lives growing up, because my first sports card related conscious thought that I had was walking into a Kmart out in the Sugarland area.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, right there by all the gum and candy, you have the box, and there's bright colors, and you had the star player on the box, and it would only cost you 50 cents to $1 at that time for a pack.
A pack of what? Like 10 or 15 cards?
10 or 15 cards. So it was reasonable for
and a stick of gum.
It was reasonable for a 10-year-old me to, do a little extra around the house, have that chore money, and, find something that you can either, keep, trade, or sell, right?
So you weren't running guns
No.
to get this, to acquire this.
Doing dishes.
Just doing dishes.
Not at all.
You're
No.
running dishes is what
I was
you're doing.
I was vacuuming, I was dusting, I was doing dishes.
Changing the channel. Yeah.
I was earning my keep.
Gotcha.
And my keep was baseball cards,
Yeah.
football cards, and basketball cards. And, at the time, there was so much buzz around it. You had tons of stores, the card shops. You had pretty much a card show every weekend. And, as a child, it was magical. You got to see stuff that you never saw before, because this is all pre-internet. You had guides, like Jake said, so you had an idea of how much you were investing and how much your return was. So we were kind of, in a way, playing the baseball card stock market per se, right?
Oh, and there's some grown men who lost their ass on that too.
Yeah, I believe it.
So I started small, few packs here, a few packs there. And then you would trade up, and then you would pull that, 1989 Billy Ripken F-face air.
I think I might have that card.
And yeah, for everyone that is listening, they had these error cards, and people would chase them, and because they were a little more rare or unique, and card dealers would offer you cash for it. And at the time, we would get a lot of trades, which was nice. But anytime you can get cash for a card, that's king, right? So, you go to a card show, you only had maybe $40, $50 in your pocket. But if you can bust open a pack and get something that you can get $100 for, $200 for, it was kind of the way that we conducted business back in the day, right? Mm-hmm. All the friends would get together. We would have trade parties. We'd actually gamble with cards too. So, we would play poker and play some basketball. Whoever won one-on-one you put your card up against the other card, and that's how we bartered. That's how we traded.
You were involved at one time and cleared of any wrongdoing of a deadly marbles game. Do I have?
Marbles was not my cup of tea.
Okay, I've got the wrong.
But definitely, dominoes and card games. So baseball cards, when I was growing up in the early, I would say mid 80s to late, I would say mid 90s, that was kind of my sweet spot of collecting. Like Jake said, everything was overproduced. At the time, we didn't know that. And then we also collected during a horrible time for superstars, right? So everybody knows about the steroid era that drove the prices way down. So, I bought high, I held,
and now you're stuck.
Now I'm sitting on junk wax
pennies
from 10 years of collecting in my life. And of course, the wife is all like, "When are you going to sell this stuff?" Well, there's, I'm old school, right? I was like, okay, I have 2 girls. Hopefully, if they have boys, I can sit them down when they're old enough and say, "Look, this is what your grandfather collected. Mm-hmm. It's not worth a whole lot, but to me, it's nostalgia, and I think that's kind of where the hobby has kind of taken off again." Because COVID, you've got all these boys now that are super collectors because their dad were, our age. We were super into the hobby, right? So, but we didn't have all the gimmicky, super collectible, super rare cards. We didn't have the grading system. We didn't have the internet. So it was, it was very much going from card show to card show, or shop to shop, and learning the trade, and that's kind of how I got how I cut my teeth into the hobby.
So, I mean, your collection was literally valued, or you had upwards of $100,000.
Very close to,
yeah.
I mean, if you were to grade these cards today, even with grading, it would be a fraction of what Beckett told us it was, right? And we always got a big kick out of the hobby, like who determined the price, right? It was very speculative.
Yeah.
But it was also probably driven by the dealers.
I think it would be funny if it was just a big scam, and perhaps it was. I mean, it's just some subjective number that some dude was like, "Yeah, this one's worth about, let's put it at $2.25 this week, $2.25 this month."
Yeah.
And then he hits 7 home runs that month, and it's up to $3.25 or something like that. I mean, I think it was subjective.
Well, and of course, ultimately, it starts with how many are printed first, right? And then you go from there.
Not then.
I don't think
now, yes, circulation plays a big part, right? So we talked about, like, when we were growing up, it was 20 cards in a pack. It was just a base set. There was no inserts. There were no numbered cards. There were no autographs. There were no game-used memorabilia cards inside. Now it's like they trick it up to where you're paying for 5 cards, and it's, super rare. You can't find them anywhere. You can't even, you can still go to like Walmart and Target.
No.
Well, not even more.
No,
Their shelves are bare.
Well, another thing that happened, if I recall this correctly, Target pulled their sports cards in around 2020, 2021 due to massive brawls that were taking place inside the store from dudes like throwing down over like, I want those packs.
That last box of, Panini,
whatever,
Elite or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So
It's like a Black Friday sale.
every day to
Wow.
the point where they had to pull them.
Huh.
And I don't think, I'll look. The last I checked, which was not long ago, they're not back.
every once in a while I'll go to that section. It's a little hobby section that has the Pokemons and the video game type memorabilia, and you'd look for sports cards and they're just not there. It's just, but again, I just got kind of disenfranchised with the whole industry. Chalk it up to just getting older and chasing other.
Hey, did you ever
Pursuits,
rip anybody off in a
things.
trade?
Oh, most definitely.
Oh,
And a lot of times you feel really bad afterwards because
Oh.
you were probably like 4 or 5 years older than the kid that you.
Oh, you would rip off a kid?
No, not as an adult.
He's
No, but like if you were
now hold on.
16, you'd rip off a 10-year-old?
Maybe not that
He's
young.
been referred to as a sports card gangster,
Oh, yeah, I forgot what his name was. Never mind.
and others like
Sports
a
card.
10-year-old kid refers to him as a sports card bully. These are well-earned names that
Yes.
Ah,
that Junk Wax has
you can talk
acquired.
a 12-year-old into thinking that you've got something really good.
man, this Kevin Moss guy, he's going to be the next big thing. Trust me on this.
Trust me.
what an SOB. All right.
So yes, you use the power of persuasion, and thankfully I'm a pretty decent salesman, so you can really sell the sizzle of something that is gonna not be as desirable the next month. Maybe you saw the down arrow in that Beckett a couple times and you just knew you had to unload it, right? So
Yeah.
that was kind of you played this. Basically, you're playing the stock market, right? You're hoping that you can sell high and buy low, right?
This stuff even back then though, it could turn an honest kid.
Oh yeah, no, there were times that there was a lot of temptations there. A lot of opportunity to to steal a card or to swipe a pack here and there. And
I actually wasn't talking about anything that serious, but
no, I'm just saying.
Maybe we should open a Signal 51 on Junk Wax.
Junk Wax Jockins and the escapades from 1989.
But you can see that you can use sports cards as currency, right? So, and if you know that there's an easy opportunity to go into a card shop, whether it be breaking into it or swiping something at a card show, because it happens every day,
Oh yeah, it does. It still does.
that if you get your hands on something and you can figure out a way to put it online or find a card shop across town that isn't gonna pay attention to it.
See, I think that's what makes it's hard now though, because
because of the numbering.
yeah,
yes.
because of the numbering.
Because if there's only 10 in the nation, and just like you said, the guy noticed that it was a 6 of 10.
yeah,
His Joe Montana, yeah.
Yeah, how many, right? There's 10 of them. So yeah, it's easier to basically finger somebody and say, yeah, you did it, or somebody gave you this card. But back then, it was just like all the cards looked the same.
yeah, they had
There was
none of them were unique.
There was no variation, nothing unique about them, but super highly collectible. We didn't know at the time. Again, we didn't know at the time how mass produced it was, and we also didn't think that all of our childhood heroes were going to be jacked up on steroids that were going to control basically.
And George Brett was never jacked up on steroids.
That was the 80s. He was
Nor was Bo Jackson.
He was more on greenies, right?
More than likely.
more on.
Greenies was the thing, the methamphetamines.
I don't think he was on Greenies either.
I think everybody was.
Everybody in the 80s was.
Or 60s to 80s.
Not George Brett.
That 154 game schedule, 162 game schedule.
Yep.
You need a little pick me up every now and then.
You could just be a stellar athlete.
The man watched another man die at the Lions Club.
No, I don't think the guy died.
Oh.
But he does also have the classic story of being in Vegas. Have you guys ever heard this?
I don't remember this.
He goes to a spring training. This is probably some 15, 20 years ago, and he's talking to this rookie. And he's telling him about this experience he had in Vegas at some event. And he went to, like so many do in Vegas, goes to the buffet. Well, maybe, I don't know. I have a hard time thinking he went to a buffet, but perhaps he did. And he ate something that didn't go over so well.
Probably all you can eat crab legs, right?
It was crab legs, I do believe. And he tells this story how, you know, those hotels, I mean, a walk from one to another, it's a little bit of a jaunt, if you will. And I guess the food didn't settle so well, so he tells a story about how he crapped his pants in Vegas.
What?
Yeah. It was
Poor George Brett. I remember that story.
It's a good one. I like him telling it is good. That's a good story.
He also had the hemorrhoids problem in 85 World Series, maybe earlier than that.
Some have said that's the best World Series in baseball history.
Oh, God, I tell you.
No,
The Cardinals got screwed.
No, they didn't.
Dinkinger missed that call.
No. Said no one ever. So, okay, so Junk Wax gives us the perspective of a kid. Every kid becomes an entrepreneur basically back then, right? Don't you think?
Of course.
A peddler.
Yeah.
No, you felt like the king of the block, man. If you had that card, or if your collection was superior than everyone else, you felt like a kingpin, right?
Yeah.
But here's where it also, like we talked about, it had the ability. I learned from an adult. Go back to the 1971 tops, the black borders back then. This was, they had the little fray on the corner. There were some workarounds on that to get it back to that perfect black color with a little fine felt tip pen. And
if you had a steady hand, you can make a card that was near mint.
Yeah, absolutely. Not exactly.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
An X-Acto knife and a felt tip black marker can work wonders.
I guess the black market is entrepreneurship in some degree, but
I guess
most of my cards when I was growing up were tops. I never really got into Panini. So what was the
well, they were king, right? So they were
Panini,
they were the first.
Yeah, Panini.
Yeah, so they were first, and then if you recall in the early '80s, that's when other brands started popping up, right? So you had your Fleers and your Donruss, and your Score.
Well, it was because MLB, and I did research this. It's because none of the other manufacturers had an MLB license.
Oh, right.
Only Topps had it up until around 82, somewhere in that time frame. That's why you started seeing all the other ones pop up. It was a bunch of lawsuits. It was a tumultuous time.
Yeah, it was a licensing issue there. You had a monopoly on the industry, and then the '80s just kind of blossomed.
Upper Deck was the other one I was trying to think of.
1989.
Yeah.
So, in closing, I still can't find the logic in burglarizing these stores. I mean, they're getting away with. They're not getting caught, right? Obviously, everyone that we've researched, nobody's been caught. But it's so hard to resell the loot. It seems like it.
You have to go on the black market to do it.
You got to go on the black market.
And that person's screwed with.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're going to get, granted, if something's worth money, let's just say you steal something, you can't, resell it in town or get online because of the serial numbers. People are watching. Yeah, you're probably going to get pennies on the dollar for whatever you have.
I mean, to me, the squeeze isn't worth the juice on it in my lot, or the way I look at it. I mean, if you break in and steal, in that one case, $50,000 worth, you're not going to get $50,000 in return. You're probably, number one, it's a small market, right? Most what's the saying? Birds of a feather flock together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So most crooks probably aren't sports card collectors. So trying to resell them, that becomes an issue. So I don't know. I mean, again, I think, and just like we learned in the American Dreams case, less than 24 hours later, suspect in custody, not necessarily charged with the burglary because the two suspects in that case were both males, according to the surveillance video. It was a female that was trying to resell them, but obviously this is a little bit more lighthearted than what we normally do, but still a problematic issue. And I think the other thing is you're talking about small business owners too, man. I mean, like these guys that are losing the vast majority of their inventory from one event.
That's the real.
It's the mom and pops that really stealing from a mom and pop is horrible. And for any small business owner, when somebody does that, it really it can really put you back, financially. Just you're having to spend all that money, making it right and paying for additional, security, and retail in general is taking a huge hit on this, and we're gonna have to figure it out.
All right, well, Junk Wax, thank you for joining us on this day in March.
Hey, we got to give the American Dreams guy, Scott Mann, a little shout out, because he did take time out of his day to talk to us, and he's opening up a new store. He departed Haltom City. Was doing some research on Facebook, and it appears that a few other burglaries, or what were described as robberies, probably burglaries by the definition of law, have happened, which forced him
in Haltom City. Yeah,
forced him to relocate, but relocate close to the Roxo Media House studios, relatively 2901 Altamere, Suite 200.
Big grand opening.
Big grand opening this Saturday, so it should be pretty cool.
Come get some junk wax.
You and Jake, you and Junk Wax going down there to see the
I
cut
told
the
him.
ribbon.
Yeah, I told him I'm going. I'm doing it. I'm getting back in. I'm diving in head first.
Yeah, I bet you are.
All right. Well, that wraps up this episode, and perhaps the next one might be a bit more serious.
I bet it will be.
We got to take a break from that sometime, so.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's good. Sure. It's good to have some levity.
Yeah, levity's good, and for sure.
All right. Until next time, Signal 51 Chronicles, YouTube, the usual, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and your preferred podcast platform.
On every single one of those. It's
all
on every single one of those.
Every one of them. All right, that'll do it.
See ya.
Roxo Media House.